that need help, and you don't have to fool with the ones that don't need help. We spend so much time and energy chasing around a bunch of nonviolent drug law offenders in this country, trying to arrest them, and then once we arrest them, prosecuting them, sending as many to prison as we can, and we're just spinning our wheels, and it's worse than not doing anything. We are doing a disservice to the public, because what we've been assigned to do for the last 46 years is we have been assigned to try to protect every adult human being from his or herself by saying what they can put in their body. That should never be the role of a law enforcer. The police role should be to protect you from me and me from someone else. That's what we do best, and that's what we should do. Protect people from violence or from people stealing from them or something, not try to protect them from themselves. It's a crazy thing that we've been assigned to do, and especially when it comes to things like marijuana. Here's the one drug that's probably the most benign of any of these drugs. There's never been a case of anybody dying from ingesting just marijuana in all of recorded history, and yet we list it up there exactly in the same as heroin is listed, and we arrest people and destroy their lives because they want to use this drug that is much more benign than, say, the drug I use. My drug of choice is straight bourbon, a really nasty drug. So we've got to stop that.
Hey, Jack, this is Lefty Grimes. We do something called the Ignorance is No Excuse Tour, and we deal with a lot of police officers around New Jersey. We deliver the Attorney General guidelines for medical marijuana to different police stations, and we ask them where we can smoke our medical marijuana. And a lot of times the cops are like, oh, yeah, you can smoke by the flagpole, you can smoke by the bench, that's cool. Sometimes the cops have no idea about medical marijuana. As a matter of fact, 2 weeks ago in Hanover, the cop knew about medical marijuana, but he said that he'd rather see people on OxyContin than marijuana for their pain or for. Yeah, we were like taken aback by that. That police would actually think that way.
So.
Yeah, but what's a good way?
Yeah. OxyContin is an opiate. It's just like heroin. It's a synthetic opiate, but the overdose deaths. The war on drugs was supposed to reduce overdose deaths, but actually, the Center for Disease Control has said that the overdose deaths from opiates, OxyContin, heroin, those things have increased by 18 times what they were at the beginning of the war on drugs. 18 times worse.
And I should mention that they're decreasing in states that they're legalized. So now that we have medical states, recent reports have showed that those deaths are starting to go down in states where there is a functioning medical program and where recreational marijuana. So there's definitely a strong correlation there.
Yes, they're not only going down, they are dropping significantly. The study I think you're referring to was a study done by JAMA, which is the Journal of the American Medical Association. It came out August 24th of 2014, last year, and it says that in states that have legalized medical marijuana, there has been a 25% decline in heroin overdose deaths. That's amazing. Not just heroin, opiate overdose deaths. That's amazing. 25% less, and no drop whatsoever in states that haven't legalized medical marijuana.
Very interesting.
And another report said that, in states, where it was legal or they had medical, that veteran suicides and veteran overdoses, from the VA, those reports came from, had also gone down.
Yes, and as far as suicides, they did a study, University of Colorado and the University, I think, of Utah did a joint study where they found that in states that have legalized medical marijuana, there has been, overall, in those states, there's been a 5% drop in suicides. But for young men, between the ages of 20 and 29 years old, the suicide rate has dropped by 11%. And, I think we really need to think about that hard when we see studies done of our soldiers who come home from Iraq and Afghanistan and who knows where next, and the studies are showing that they're killing themselves by suicide at rates faster than they were dying when they were actually fighting the war. Now, if we could save 11% of their lives, that would be amazing.
Indeed. That's why we have a lot of veterans now that have joined our movement. We've had a gentleman here in New Jersey, Don Karpowicz, shout out to him if you're listening, who's been trying to get other veterans involved in this movement for the very reasons that you speak of.
A lot of his friends have killed themselves. A lot of his teammates that have went through it, they've killed themselves. And it's a bad place to be in when you have PTSD. It's no joke. And they make it out to be a joke because you can't prove PTSD, to a doctor. You have to jump through all these hoops just like anything else. And it's disgusting what these doctors are doing to patients here in New Jersey especially.
Yeah, and just on another note, the other thing that we're seeing, especially on the East Coast, because, we have a lot of big cities here, is, a lot of really anti-police sentiment and a movement beginning on police violence. And, a lot of people now are starting to see the connections between the drug war and policies like stop and frisk and racial profiling and mass incarceration and the violence and killings that happen as a result of these policies. Can you comment on this recent sweep of Black Lives Matter and movement to hold police accountable for these things, and then and how a lot of these activities happen in neighborhoods that are traditionally targeted for drug enforcement?
Sure, I can comment on it. We traditionally go after the black communities. That's where we do the most work in narcotics girls. We don't necessarily do it because individual cops are racist, although there are a lot of them that are. But we do it because police are trained to go out and get the most arrests they can. And the people in the black community tend to deal with this stuff on the streets a lot, where for instance, when I was an undercover agent, they could have sent me in undercover to try to weasel my way into a judge's chamber and see him coking up with a defense attorney, because things like that happen. But that would have taken me a half a year to get in and do that, make 2 arrests. So the idea is this is a numbers game. You turn over as many arrests as you can possibly turn over, because the federal government pays state, county, and local police departments by giving them funding each year, and that funding is based on one thing, and that thing is the number of drug arrests they made the year before. They don't pay them for making arrests of people who murder people or rape people or rob people. They only pay them for drug arrests. So, it's obvious which type of arrests they're going to go out after the drug arrests, and those are much easier to make in the black communities where they're on the streets.
So, question: if we did succeed in our campaign to legalize marijuana and perhaps other drugs, where then would police departments get the revenue to fund themselves? And would there be drastic cuts and layoffs to their departments? And is that the fear that's driving them to not, budge on their position, to support prohibition?
Yes, you're right about that. And I think it's a baseless fear. In all the years that I've been involved in this stuff, which is going something over 50 years now, I have never heard a police officer or a police chief who wasn't asking for more police officers. We need more police officers. Every one of them says, and why do they say we need these officers? They say we need them because we don't have enough officers to protect our citizens from major crimes, from murder, rape, arson, robbery, home burglaries. So if we ended the war on drugs, and we said from now on drugs are legal, you can use them, you can sell them under whatever regulations we have, you can transport them under whatever regulations we have. None of those laws would apply anymore, but what they could do with all those police, all that staff time that they had extra, is they could turn them folks toward solving major crimes. Let me tell you how bad it is. And it is really bad. If you look at the clearance rate for crimes, and we're not talking about how many crimes occur, because the number of crimes have dropped by almost 60% from what they were in 1982. We have about 60% less crime out throughout the United States than we did then. But you don't want to look at that. You want to look at the clearance rate for those crimes. And when you look at that, you find out that, and all the clearance rate means is that how many of these individual crimes have we found somebody to arrest for. When you look at that, you find out that 40% of all the murders in this country are unsolved. 60% of all reported rapes and reported arsons are unsolved. 75% of all reported robberies are unsolved. And 90% of all reported home burglaries, breaking into your house at night, probably while you're asleep there, 90% unsolved. Now that's a miserable record for law enforcement, but it wasn't always like that. In 1963, from 1963 up to 1970, our police were correctly credited for solving about 91% of the murders in this country. Today we solve 61%. So what happened? Did we suddenly become incompetent? You know, we have far more police per capita than we had in 1963. We're better paid, better trained, better educated, and we got technology at our disposal to do these cases like it came from Star Wars. So what is causing us to solve 1/3 less murders today than we did before the drug war? Well,
their capacity is being redirected, right?
Cops, judges, and prosecutors elite think we know, and what it is we have tasked our police with chasing around these nonviolent drug offenders in this numbers game to make arrests to the point where they no longer have time to protect us from violent predators, from child molesters, even from drunk drivers. And we say, let us get back to doing what we do best, protecting one person from another, not trying to protect them from themselves.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Jack, I see you guys actually added Matthew Fogg to the LEAP lineup, which is actually awesome. For people that don't know, Matthew Fogg was he the U.S. Deputy Marshal?
He was the U.S. Marshal.
Yes, and he was. He was the U.S. Marshal. Sorry about that. Yeah, he was directed from his.
He was a high-ranking U.S. Marshal. He was, and he's been a LEAP speaker for many years.
Oh, has he? That's cool.
He was put in a position where, because of racism in the ranks, that he was put in a position where his life was actually endangered by what other officers were doing with him, and he brought suit against the U.S. Justice Department and won that suit for about $4 million, actually, and to prove that yes, this racism did indeed exist.
And he was actually directed.
Very speaker for us.
Yeah, and he was actually directed, while he was the U.S. Marshal, to not raid white neighborhoods and things like that, and to focus his intention and resources more directly.
We're almost all directed to do that. Yeah. You know, we're all told that go where fruit is, the stuff that's easy to get. Here's the difference. Here's